The human with the strange syringe Ryan was not a soldier. He was just a human medic. On the alien space station called Zaraxa 9, he was the only human in the medical bay. Most of the staff were from peaceful alien species, soft-skinned, long-necked, beings with glowing eyes and gentle voices. Ryan was cleaning the storage cabinet that day. He had been told not to touch the blue containers marked with glowing alien symbols, but curiosity got the better of him. "This one looks different," Ryan muttered, holding a small silver case. Inside, he found a strange syringe. The fluid inside was glowing blue and thick like jelly. The label was in an alien language he couldn't read, but he guessed it was some kind of vitamin shot or immune booster. Just as he turned the syringe in his hand to examine it, the door to the storage room slid open with a soft hiss. Startled, Ryan dropped the syringe. It hit the floor and rolled quickly. "Wait, no. The syringe spun across the tiles and stopped near the foot of someone standing in the doorway. It was Valari. Valari was an alien girl, a quiet and shy one. She belonged to the Zalari species, tall, slim, with soft lavender skin and bright green eyes. She was known for being very polite, always whispering instead of talking loud. Many on the station didn't even notice her because she avoided attention. "Sorry," Ryan said quickly, kneeling down to pick it up. But before he could, Valari had already bent down, touched the syringe, and it clicked. The needle had accidentally touched her skin. She gasped, more in surprise than pain. There was a faint blue spark. Ryan's eyes widened. "Oh no." Valari looked at him with a confused face. Is it supposed to do that?" I don't think so," Ryan admitted. She stepped back slowly, clutching her arm where the needle had touched her. "What was that?" she asked softly. Ryan had no answer. He picked up the syringe carefully and looked at the label again. Still unreadable. "I think you should see the medics," he said, voice full of worry. But Valari shook her head fast. "No, I'm fine. Please don't tell anyone. But please," she said, her voice nearly a whisper. "Just let me go." Ryan hesitated. Valari was not showing any pain, no burns, no signs of injury. Still, he felt something was wrong. She turned and walked out of the room quickly, holding her arms tightly across her chest. Ryan stood there, unsure what to do. That night, Valari didn't sleep. She sat in her room feeling strange. Her body was warm, her skin felt tight. And her uniform, which had always been slightly loose, was suddenly small, especially in one place. She looked down and gasped. Her chest had grown. Not just a little, a lot. "What is happening to me?" she whispered in the silence. She blushed deeply. Her whole body was hot. She tried pulling at the uniform, but the fabric stretched tightly over her chest, refusing to relax. She tried covering herself with a blanket, hoping the change would stop, but it didn't. By morning, her cheeks were still red, and she couldn't walk down the hallway without crossing her arms tightly over her chest. Back in the med bay, Ryan was pacing. "I should have told someone," he said to himself. "What if it was dangerous? What if I hurt her?" He went back to the storage cabinet and searched for the same silver box, but it was gone. In fact, all the blue-marked boxes were gone. "Strange," he mumbled. That afternoon, Valari didn't show up for lunch. She didn't go to her science class. People started asking questions. A few aliens whispered in the halls, "Have you seen Valari? She looked different this morning." Ryan felt a knot in his stomach. He saw a group of alien students gossiping and giggling. "Her shirt looked like it was going to explode," one said. "She just kept blushing and ran away." That's when Ryan knew. Something had changed, and it was because of that syringe. Later, Valari was found hiding in the storage bay behind empty crates. Her face was glowing with embarrassment. Her uniform was stretched so tight it looked ready to tear, and when Ryan found her, her eyes filled with panic. "I didn't mean to," he said quickly. "I swear I dropped it and—" Valari didn't yell. She didn't get angry. She just looked at him, cheeks red, voice shaking. What's happening to me? Ryan didn't know the answer, but he knew one thing now. This wasn't normal, and it was just the beginning. Valari's uncontrollable changes. Valari had always liked quiet mornings, but not this one. Her heart beat fast. Her uniform barely fit. Her hands kept covering her chest as she stared at the strange shape of her body. Last night she thought it was a dream, some weird reaction. But now, it was real. The glowing blue, liquid from that human syringe had done something, and her body wouldn't stop changing. She looked down again, then looked away with a red face. "This is too much," she whispered. Outside her room, alien girls from her dorm walked by. Laughing, one of them paused. "Valari, you okay?" She stayed silent. She couldn't let anyone see her like this, but it was too late. An hour later, rumors spread through the space station. "She's hiding something under that cloak." "Did she get surgery?" "No, I think it's natural." "But overnight?" "She was flat yesterday, now. Boom." Valari tried to walk normally. She wore a thick gray cloak, but even that couldn't hide her new shape. Heads turned, jaws dropped. She passed a group of alien boys, and one of them choked on his food. She turned away, red-faced. She wanted to disappear. In the medbay, Ryan was in full panic. He had asked the system for the syringe ID. The screen only gave a warning. Class 9 bioenhancer. Do not administer without permission. Reactions vary by species. Class 9? Ryan muttered. That sounds really bad. He remembered Valari's face, how she looked scared and confused. What did I do to her? The other medics were starting to notice strange reports. We have an anomaly in dorm section E3, one said. A female Zalari with rapid tissue growth. I heard she won't come in for scans, another whispered. Probably scared. Ryan felt his stomach drop. He wanted to go to her. Apologize, fix it, but she wouldn't talk to him. That night, Valari cried into her pillow. She had locked herself in her room, refusing to eat or talk to anyone. She remembered her people's traditions, how Zalari girls were supposed to be slim, delicate, unnoticed. And now, her body was impossible to ignore. Loud, unwanted attention. She blamed the serum. She blamed her curiosity. But most of all, she blamed the feeling in her heart. A strange part of her didn't hate it, and that scared her the most. The next morning, someone knocked on her door. It was a girl from her class. Hey, Valari, some guys are saying rude stuff about you. You okay? Valari didn't answer. The girl added, also, the high medics want to talk to you. They sent an order. Valari froze. If the council got involved, they might lock her up, test her, cut into her like a lab sample. No, she whispered to herself. She packed her things in a small bag. A long cloak, a small communicator. And she opened the window. Outside, the pipes ran along the building, thin enough to walk on if she was careful. She had to get away. Meanwhile, Ryan paced the hallway thinking. He finally gathered the courage and went to Valari's dorm. But when he knocked, no one answered. The door slid open. Empty. Bed untouched. Room cold. She was gone. A message blinked on her console. To anyone who cares, I can't be here anymore. I'm not normal. Don't look for me. Ryan grabbed his scanner and ran outside. Valari crouched behind a storage tank, breathing hard. Every step made her cloak tighter. Every movement made her face burn red. Then she heard footsteps. A voice. Valari! It was him. She held her breath, hoping he would leave. But Ryan didn't leave. I'm sorry, he shouted. I didn't know. That syringe wasn't supposed to do that. I didn't want to hurt you. Silence. Then a whisper. You didn't hurt me. He turned around. There she was, face blushing, cloak pulled tightly around her, eyes full of fear and confusion. I don't know what's happening to me, she said. Ryan looked at her and nodded slowly. Then let me help you find out. They stood together under the cold light of the space station. both unsure of what would come next, but both knowing this was only the beginning. The secret gets out. Valari thought she could hide it. She wore her cloak. She kept her head down. She walked fast and avoided eye contact, but no cloak could hide what had happened. The changes were too obvious now. Her chest had grown larger than anyone in her species had ever seen. Even her posture had changed, shoulders hunched, arms crossed, tightly to hide her body. But the way others stared, it felt like a spotlight. In the cafeteria, a loud clink was heard as someone dropped a tray. "Is that Valari?" whispered a girl at one table. "No way, look at her, that can't be natural," replied another. "I heard it was an accident, a human injected her," someone else muttered. Laughter followed. Cruel, curious, loud. Valari's face turned red. Her fingers shook as she held her drink, and that's when one of the alien boys, Gavrix, a tall, sharp-tongued student, stood up and shouted across the room, "Hey Valari, got some extra gravity going on there?" The whole room froze, then burst into cruel laughter. Valari dropped her drink and ran. Ryan watched from a distance. He had just entered the room and saw her rush out, cloak flying behind her like wings of panic. The sound of laughter hit his ears like knives. He clenched, his fists. Enough was enough. Later, Ryan found her behind the water filtration tanks, sitting on the cold floor, knees to her chest. "Why won't it stop?" Valari whispered, tears in her eyes. "I don't want to be like this." Ryan sat beside her. "I'm sorry. I never meant for this to happen." She looked at him, eyes full of fear and shame. "Why me? Why this? Why that part of my body?" Ryan didn't know the answer, but he had a theory. It's possible the serum reacted with your species' biology. Maybe it looked for the weakest part, or the part with the most growth potential. "You're saying my chest was my weakness?" she asked, half laughing, half crying. "No, I'm saying the serum didn't know what it was doing." She stayed quiet for a while, then said softly, "Everyone knows now." "I know," Ryan said, "but they don't understand." The next morning, the high medics requested her presence. She refused. So they came to her dorm. 2 guards, a female medic, a scanning device. "Valari, you must comply," the medic said calmly. "We need to examine what's happening to you. This is beyond natural." Valari backed away. "No, I don't want to be tested like an experiment." "But," the guard stepped forward. Ryan arrived just in time. "Stop," he shouted. "You can't force her." "She is showing signs of unstable mutation," the medic replied. "This could endanger others." "It's not a mutation," Ryan said. "It's a reaction to a Class 9 serum. I gave it to her, by accident." The room went silent. The guards looked stunned. "You administered a forbidden enhancer?" The medic asked. "I dropped it. It injected her by mistake," Ryan admitted. Valari looked at him in shock. You told them the truth?" "I had to. You don't deserve to be treated like a threat." The medic narrowed her eyes. "You will both report to the commander, immediately." In the command room, a senior alien officer glared at them both. "You gave our student a black-level serum?" "I didn't mean to," Ryan tried to explain. "I don't care what you meant. You've broken multiple medical rules, and you," he turned to Valari, "are now an object of galactic interest. You must be transported to the research center," Valari gasped. "No, please, I just want to be normal again." Ryan stood between her and the officer. "She's not an object, she's a person, and she doesn't belong in a lab." "You don't get to decide that," the officer growled. But Valari's voice rose. "I decide. It's my body, my life." The officer paused. Then quietly, he said, "You have 24 hours to comply. After that, you will be taken by force." As they walked back through the station's hallways, Valari whispered, "They're going to take me away." "Not if I can help it," Ryan said. She looked at him, her eyes soft and shining. "You'd risk your job for me?" "I already did," he replied. Then for the first time since the serum incident, Valari smiled, a small, shy, and very pink smile, and it meant everything. The blushing confession Valari sat alone inside, the greenhouse dome of the station, surrounded by glowing alien plants and silent purple trees. It was the only place she could breathe freely without curious eyes following her everywhere. She thought Ryan wouldn't find her here, but she was wrong. He walked in quietly, footsteps soft on the glassy floor. In his hand, he held something. When Valari turned and saw it, her breath caught. It was the syringe. "You kept it?" she asked, voice barely a whisper. Ryan nodded. "I needed to be sure. I scanned it, checked everything I could, and I know now what it did to you." Valari looked away, her arms crossed tightly over her chest again. The cloak couldn't hide how her body had changed, and Ryan wasn't staring, but she felt his eyes like heat. "I don't need your apology," she said quietly. "It's not an apology," Ryan replied. "It's a confession." She turned, slowly to face him. "I dropped the serum. I didn't know what it was." "You touched it by accident," he said, looking down in shame. "But it was still my mistake." Valari didn't answer right away. Her heart beat too fast, her face felt like fire. I knew it was from you," she admitted. "From the beginning." Ryan looked up. Valari bit her lower lip. "I didn't say anything because I didn't want you to feel guilty. You didn't do it on purpose." "I should have spoken up sooner." "I should have too," she whispered. They stood in silence. The only sound was the soft hum of alien insects in the garden dome. Finally, Valari spoke again, voice trembling. "Do you think I'm strange now?" Ryan blinked. "What?" "You know, like, gross. Weird. Everyone stares at me, laughs at me. Even the medics look at me like I'm a science puzzle." Ryan took a deep breath. "You're not gross. You're not weird. You're you." She turned even redder. Her head dropped. Her fingers pulled at her sleeves nervously. "You don't have to say that," she muttered. "I'm not saying it to be nice. I'm saying it because I see you. Valari, even before all this, before the serum, I noticed you. You were kind, smart, always helping others. Quiet, but never weak." Valari covered her face with her hands. "Stop." "What?" "You're making me blush even worse," she mumbled. Ryan smiled. "That makes two of us." She peeked through her fingers and let out a nervous laugh. It was soft, sweet. "I haven't laughed in days," she said. "You should do it more often. It suits you." Just then, a loud alarm buzzed across the dome. "Security alert. Unauthorized ship detected near perimeter." Valari stood up fast. "What was that?" Ryan tapped his comm. "Unknown ship. Probably nothing." But it wasn't nothing. Within minutes, the station's command room confirmed it. An alien ship from the Zyrex Dominion had arrived. They were the original creators of the serum. They wanted answers, and they wanted Valari. Later that night, Ryan and Valari sat in the medbay's private room watching the stars through the glass ceiling. "I don't think they're here just to ask questions," Ryan said. "They want to take you, study you, maybe more." "I don't want to go with them," Valari whispered. "What if I never come back?" Ryan looked at her, this shy, blushing girl whose life he'd accidentally changed. "You won't go," he said firmly. Valari looked up. "What do you mean?" "I'll protect you," Ryan said, "even if I have to break every rule." She stared at him for a long time, and then, softly, she reached out and took his hand. It was small, warm, and shaking. "I'm scared," she said. "I am too," Ryan whispered. "But we're not alone." Her head leaned gently against his shoulder, and her long hair brushed his arm. In that quiet moment, under the starlight, the girl with the blushing cheeks and the human with guilty hands made a silent promise to each other. Whatever comes next, they would face it together. Alien authorities want the serum. The alien ship hovered just outside the defense perimeter of Station Zaraxa 9. It was black, silent, and shaped like a scorpion. Its presence made the entire station feel colder. Inside the command center, alarms blinked red and voices filled the air. Unregistered ship approaching. No response to hails. They've activated scanning beams. Ryan stood behind the glass, watching the massive warship. His heart raced. He knew why they were here. It's about her, he whispered. Valari stood next to him, wrapped in her cloak again, her hands clenched tightly, her face pale, her cheeks no longer just pink from blushing, now pale from fear. An hour later, a direct message came from the Zyrex ship. The individual exposed to serum X-97 must be surrendered for examination. The human responsible for breach will be questioned. Non-compliance will be seen as a threat to Dominion law. The message ended with a sharp alien symbol. A warning. They want to take me, Valari said quietly. They want to use you, Ryan replied. The station commander paced nervously. We can't risk a war. The Zyrex are not known for patience. She's not a lab sample, Ryan shouted. She's a person. You can't just hand her over. The commander gave him a cold look. This station is neutral. If we refuse, we invite destruction. So you're choosing safety over her life, Ryan said. I'm choosing survival for all of us. That night the order came down. Valari was to be handed over in the morning. Ryan stared at the message. On his tablet, fists trembling. He knew what the Zyrex would do. They would run experiments. Cut her open. Drain her DNA. Maybe worse. He walked fast toward the dorms, toward Valari's room. But she wasn't there. He checked the cafeteria. Empty. He ran to the greenhouse dome, still no sign of her. Finally, he reached the top platform of the station's outer ring. And there she was, standing under the stars. Quiet. Still. Waiting. I heard, she said without turning around. They're going to take me. Ryan stepped closer. Not if I stop them. Valari turned to him. Her face was tired. Her eyes shimmered. You can't stop them. They're stronger, smarter, scarier. But they're not right, Ryan said. And I won't let them win. She looked down. I didn't ask you to protect me. I know, he replied. I want to. A long silence passed. Then Valari asked in a soft voice, If I go with them, will it stop the war? Ryan paused. Maybe, she nodded. Then maybe I should. No, he said sharply. Don't say that. Don't give yourself up just because they scared everyone else. I'm not scared, she said, though her hands were shaking. I'm just tired. Ryan gently touched her arm. Then let me carry the fight. At midnight, the plan began. Ryan gathered a map of the maintenance tunnels. He hacked the elevator code. He prepped an old escape pod docked in the cargo wing. Only one problem remained: getting Valari there before sunrise, without getting caught. As dawn crept into the station's halls, 2 guards arrived outside Valari's room. They found the door unlocked, empty bed, no signs of struggle. The girl was gone. Alarms blared within seconds. All decks locked down. Search maintenance tunnels. Human and Zalari girl are on the run. The commander sent a final message to the Zyrex ship. The subjects have fled. We are working to retrieve them. The reply was instant. You have failed your duty. Zyrex forces will now act without restraint. Meanwhile, Ryan and Valari moved quickly through the dark tunnels under the cargo wing. Above them, heavy boots echoed on the floor. Searchlights scanned every corridor. Drones flew overhead. Valari gripped his hand tightly. We won't make it. Yes, we will, Ryan said. Why are you risking everything for me? She asked, her voice breaking. He stopped and looked at her, eyes serious. Because when I dropped that syringe, I changed your body. But when you smiled at me, you changed my heart. Valari stared at him, stunned. And for the first time in days, she smiled again. Through fear, through chaos, through danger. I believe you. she whispered. They reached the escape pod, just as Zyrex ships began descending toward the outer hull. Inside the pod, Valari took the co-pilot seat. The console beeped as Ryan activated the launch sequence. The window showed fire trails in the distance. Enemy ships. They were out of time. Ready? Ryan asked. No, Valari said with a half-smile. But go anyway. The pod ejected from the docking station, just as Zyrex cannons lit up the sky. The escape through the maintenance tunnels. The escape pod had launched, but only as a distraction. The real Ryan and Valari were still deep inside the underbelly of Eir. Station Ziraxa 9. Ryan had planned it that way. He knew the Zyrex would fire at anything that moved, so he sent a decoy pod out first. Now, as the enemy searched space for two runaways, the real fugitives were crawling through hot, narrow tunnels surrounded by pipes and humming wires. Valari's cloak kept snagging on bolts. Her feet hurt, but she never let go of Ryan's hand. Where are we going? She whispered. Cargo Wing D. There's a freight ship scheduled for deep space mining. It leaves in 1 hour. If we get on it, we disappear. Valari nodded, swallowing her fear. But fear was everywhere in the air, and footsteps were growing louder above them. Back in the command center, the station commander shouted into a comm, "They're still inside! Shut down airlocks! Block every exit!" The Zyrex commander replied coldly, "No need. We will flush them out ourselves." Seconds later, large metal tubes descended from the Zyrex ship into the station's outer walls. They weren't guns. They were gas vents. A thick mist started spreading through the lower decks, paralyzer gas, colorless, odorless, deadly for Zalari lungs. Valari suddenly gasped, coughing hard. What is that?" Ryan's eyes widened. "They're using gas. We have to move now." He pulled her forward, leading her into a side tunnel and smashing open a supply locker. Inside, an old human biomask. Just one. He didn't hesitate. He strapped it on her. "What about you?" Valari cried. "I'll be fine," Ryan said, coughing once. "I've trained for worse." But his voice already sounded weak. Valari tried to take the mask off and hand it back. "No. You need it more." "No," Ryan said firmly. "You're the one they want. I'm just—" "The accident." She looked at him, her eyes wide and filled with something more than panic. "You're not just the accident," she whispered. "You're the only one who stayed." They pushed forward, climbing down rusted ladders and ducking under pipes. The gas got thicker. Ryan's breath got shorter. His shirt clung to him with sweat. But he never let go of her hand. Suddenly, a light flashed behind them. "Drone." Valari screamed, but Ryan spun, yanked a panel loose from the wall, and smashed the drone just before it sent an alert. The spark lit up his face. His eyes were watery. His lips pale. "Ryan," she whispered, stepping close. "Don't stop," he said weakly. "We're almost there." Minutes later, they reached the cargo wing. The hangar was huge, filled with massive crates and loading bots. A mining ship sat at the far end, ramp still open. "Go," Ryan said, almost collapsing against the wall. "Get on. I'll lock the hatch behind you." Valari turned to him sharply. "I'm not leaving you behind." "You have to," he coughed. "I'll slow you down. Just get out of here before—" A voice boomed across the hangar. "Stay where you are." They turned and saw 3 Zyrex soldiers marching toward them, weapons raised. The soldiers had sleek armor and glowing red visors. Behind them, 2 medics carried a silver case. Valari froze. Ryan pushed her forward. "Run!" She didn't. Instead, she pulled off the biomask and placed it on Ryan's face. "What are you doing?" he gasped. "Saving the only person who ever saw me as more than a mistake." Then she turned to the soldiers, raised her arms, and took a step forward. But Ryan wasn't done. The mask gave him just enough strength to rise. He activated a magnet, wrenched from a nearby crate and hurled it at the closest soldier. It hit hard, sending the alien crashing into a metal box. Chaos broke out. Valari spun, grabbed Ryan's hand again, and together, they ran. Laser blasts chased them, sizzling past. Their ears, one blast struck Ryan's leg. He stumbled. Valari screamed but didn't stop. She dragged him up the ramp of the mining ship. He hit the launch button. The ramp began to close. More shots came. Sparks flew, but just before the door sealed, one final blast hit the wall beside Valari, showering them with light. Then silence. Inside. The ship. Ryan lay on the floor, panting, bleeding. Valari knelt beside him, still shaking. "You're insane," she said softly, brushing his hair back. "You kissed me first." He smiled faintly. "I didn't kiss you." "Not yet." She blushed harder than ever before. Then she wrapped his arm over her shoulder and whispered, "Don't die, okay?" "I won't," he said. "I didn't come all this way just to miss the ending." A new life, and a new bond hook. Valari stared at the stars from the window of the small ship. For the first time in her life, no one was watching her, except the one human who had seen her truly, and never looked away. The mining ship floated quietly in deep space, far from Station Ziraxa 9, far from the Zyrex Dominion, far from the place where everything had changed. Valari sat beside Ryan as he rested on the medical bed in the ship's small cabin. His leg was wrapped in thick bandages. His breathing was slower now, calmer. He wasn't just alive, he was healing, and she had stayed beside him through every hour. She had cleaned the wound. She had fed him. She had even learned how to adjust human medicine just by reading old emergency guides stored in the ship's memory bank. "I was never meant to be a nurse," she whispered with a soft laugh. Ryan stirred and blinked up at her. "Guess we both had a rough week," he mumbled, smiling weakly. Valari smiled back. "You're awake. You didn't leave." "Where would I go?" she asked, eyes shimmering. "You're the only reason I'm still free." "No," he said slowly. "You're the reason I'm still me." The ship floated through a quiet part of the galaxy, known only by miners and smugglers. No one would look for them here. Not yet. They had just enough food, enough air, enough time to think about what came next. Valari leaned against the window, watching distant stars. "I used to think I was invisible," she said softly. "Even before the serum." Ryan nodded. "You were quiet, yes, but never invisible to me." Her cheeks turned pink again. "You always say things like that. Only when they're true." She turned to him. "You know, there were days I hated what happened to me. I hated the way people stared. I hated my own reflection." Ryan looked at her gently. "And now?" She looked down, thinking. "Now, I'm still adjusting. But I don't hate myself anymore, because someone looked at me like I was more than just a mistake." She looked into his eyes. "You made me feel real." He reached out and took her hand. "You are real, Valari. Brave, kind, stronger than anyone I know." Her blush deepened. "And you," she whispered, "are the strangest human I've ever met." He laughed. "That sounds about right." A few days later, the ship landed on a quiet moon colony. It was small, barely more than a mining outpost, but peaceful. No questions, no patrols, just open skies and time to start again. Ryan and Valari found a room to stay in. Small, with a single bed and a tiny window, but it felt like a palace after everything they'd escaped. The local doctor gave Ryan a proper checkup and told him his leg would heal fully. Valari smiled with relief. At night, they would sit outside the outpost, watching the stars without fear. One night, Valari brought 2 cups of warm fruit tea and sat beside Ryan under a sky filled with twin moons. "Do you ever think about going back?" she asked. "Sometimes," Ryan said, "but only if I could return as a hero, not as a prisoner." Valari nodded. "And if they never forgive us?" He looked at her. "Then we make a new life here." She hesitated, then asked shyly, "Would that life include me?" Ryan didn't answer with words. He simply reached out and touched her, face gently brushing a strand of silver hair behind her ear. Her breath caught. Her heart raced. Then she smiled, blushing so hard even the moonlight couldn't hide it. Months passed. Ryan opened a small clinic in the colony, healed miners, stitched wounds, saved lives. Valari helped quietly at first, but the people liked her. They saw her soft hands, her glowing smile, and her patient voice, and slowly, she started smiling more. Her cloak stayed off. She wore her natural form with pride now, not because she had changed, but because she had been seen. One evening, the doctor from the colony knocked on their door with a small box. "What's this?" Ryan asked. A package came through one of the old relay stations. "Looks like someone's still looking for you." Ryan opened it carefully. Inside, a letter. It had no name, just a single line in alien script. "You are not forgotten. But we're glad you escaped. Stay hidden, stay alive." Valari read it over his shoulder. "Friends?" Ryan smiled. "Maybe." She took the letter and folded it gently. "Then let's keep living." He pulled her into a hug, and for the first time since the accident with the syringe, she didn't blush. She glowed.